So I'm going to share with some of you a story. I think when we talk about how important is it, I hope that all of you know that our problems can sometimes become too big for us. And one of the things I think what happens is you come from a tough experience or background, and a lot of times you can't get along with certain people for whatever reasons. I don't always know what those reasons are, but I also know you can't be naive or not guarded. And that was kind of the mistakes I made growing up. And when I tell you guys that when we talk about Kids Help Kids, Junior Court, I look to like alumnae teen programs. A lot of kids who are growing up in families where there's serious addiction issues. By today's standards, there's a lot more than just what we used to have to deal with in alumnae teen. And some of these programs in Al-Anon have helped us find creative ways to deal with our problems and cope. So we referred to the 12-step program or things like that. And, I never want anyone to take the easy high road because, this is not about making a problem look better. It's not about making someone look bad. It's about dealing with some of the conflicts that we have. And when Kids Help Kids, surviving an abusive home or coping and surviving and thriving, we want to see that other people can cooperate and work together. It's real easy to attack one another and say things, but under the circumstances, there could be problems that stem from it. That's why we know the root problems usually in drugs and alcohol, but it's just a symptom of a bigger problem. So when we coach and encourage others, we coach and encourage you guys because we know coming from a broken home is hard enough. The last thing you need is to continue that cycle. By breaking the cycle and getting peer support and counseling and working together, little by little, one day at a time, we're going to find ways to resolve our conflicts differently. So when you open up the 12 and 12 in alumnae teen, the first step says, 1, I just screwed that up, I'm sorry. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. That's number 3, I'm sorry. 1, we knew we were powerless over our broken home and addiction, and our lives became unmanageable. I hope I just messed it up because I didn't have the book in front of me. But I think what you can pull away from this is step 1, 2, and 3. And I don't have the book in front of me. I want to talk about my lead about alumnae teen, how good it was to refer to this. Thank God for alumnae teen, because even as a 40-year-old woman, I still think about, thank God I had the grounding of alumnae teen through a lot of difficulties. I didn't have to become alcoholic to have a problem. I didn't even recognize how bad the family disease is until I suffered. And I kept suffering in silence, and isolation was normal for me. So while people say, well, you're not an addict, you didn't drink, but I had all the same symptoms of addiction. I was definitely playing a role in the family disease, and I needed to get help. It started just a short time ago, and I recognized that I needed help. I was deteriorating, and I was isolating a lot. After my dad's death, and anyone that knows my dad, you know that he had died over 20 years sober, and I thank God for all the sobriety and all the lessons I learned, because he made sure that I went to an alumnae teen meeting and Al-Anon and AA with him on a regular basis. And one of the things is it was hard to adapt to. I wasn't drinking, I wasn't partying, so I recognized that I had to focus my energy on other things. And one of the things my dad was very good at is making sure that we were involved in sports and activities. And that always kept us very busy. And I thank God for helping us keep us grounded. But one of the things I learned in the 90s is that as my dad got older, one of the hardest things about seeing a parent get older is that you recognize that they're not the same as they used to be. They're getting tired, they're starting to get worn down, and oftentimes my dad would say that. He said, I'm getting worn down, I'm tired all the time. And a lot of times I think we overlook that, and I can see how life can take a toll on people. So I'm here to say I want to give a word of encouragement to those people. Some of you have recovered or went through a lot to get a little bit of time under your belt, and recovery is always what this is about. It's never about the problem as much as it's about recovery. So I want to focus on recovery because I think it's real easy to sink that low, start regurgitating the past, and I know that some of you know that when things are starting to surface, it's time to do what they call an inventory. I am angry about what this addiction has done to me and my family and the people around me that I love. I am angry. I saw people suffer and they didn't have to suffer. And it was most of the times because we weren't going to meetings, we weren't sticking with the program. And a lot of us need that spiritual support. I can't think of anybody out there that can't use some kind of 12-step program right now. So when I look at some of the things I value, I kind of look at being conservative, achieving goals, which I think is what the program helps us do. Promoting holistic family values. I can't think of anything more holistic than everybody being sober and going to a meeting. Integrity, saying what you mean and meaning what you say. Anyone that knows, having gone to meetings, you know, you are not going to bite off more than you can chew. And if you do, you recognize your limitations. Fair and reasonable. And then it could go on to the list, efficient and smart, keeping with high standards. You know, one of the things about principalities before personalities, I think I just messed it up. I'm sorry again. It's been a hot day. I have a fan going here. But, you know, keeping with some of the traditions and knowing that you're going to deal with other personalities, but I want all of us to learn a few things about how recovery really works. It is about helping others. Anytime we get into the poor me's, which I know some of us are really good at doing that, help somebody. It's work every time, especially if you're isolating. Find a way to be encouraging. I mean, people could go on Facebook and be encouraging. I mean, I know that I'm going to confront some things in my life at some point, if that ever comes. I know that a lot of people have not made amends where they should have. And I honestly think sometimes there are some things that can't be resolved. Maybe in time, but maybe not. I only have today. If I can keep my head out of the I just all that stinking thinking. I came out of a lot of it recently too. It is one day at a time. I know what crisis is like. I know what it will do to you. I know how it'll break somebody. Some people say your problems are only there to test you and teach you something, but I have to tell you, there have been hard problems I've faced, and a lot of them I didn't know how to face. So thank you for taking the time to listen to me, because my road to recovery is a little slow, you know what I mean? I can still remember the day my dad brought me to the Green Tree meeting in 1975. Now, typically my parents would leave us at home. You know, when you have 3 little kids and one on the way in diapers, you know, it would be a lot easier to leave the kids. But my dad took me to a meeting, and I drank coffee with him at 5. But the room was smoke-filled, and it was a basement. And anybody that's ever been to the Green Tree meeting know that it's a very special place. In fact, most of my best memories of Saturday night are at the Green Tree meeting. So I started the Moonlight Lounge because I knew that we spent every Saturday night dancing at an AA party. And meaning people were dancing sober. It was quite the sight. I had more fun than I couldn't even tell you. And one of the greatest inspirations behind my radio show is because I love seeing people recover. I love seeing recovery people go to meetings. And one of the things I learned about the program is you can have fun and be sober doing it. And I have to tell you, I didn't think you could have fun again. In fact, if you look at some of the problems, having fun is so foreign. You know, a lot of the problems that we sat there and we were so caught up in some of it that we couldn't even break free. I often wonder what it would have been like if we wouldn't have gotten back to the meetings sooner. So my hope is that when we focus on recovery goals, we look to each other for answers, not always talking about the problems. I know these problems weigh you down. And if any of you were a part of my life recently, you know that we spend a lot of hours talking problems out and not always having a quick answer. Sometimes just being there to listen. I know it's my turn this time as I get a little healthier, but there have been a lot of family setbacks over the years, and I realized a long time ago that I had to go on my own and do my own thing for a while. I ran into some people in recovery though, and it was quite a surprise because I wasn't expecting to see them. But, you know, it's interesting how other people see everything differently in hindsight. I found a friend, I didn't recognize that I would even run into these people, but a lot of them shared stories about my dad and his recovery, and how many people right now in this room, or the people might be listening to this audio at YouTube, may have met my dad, and they said he was instrumental in their recovery. I'm so grateful. That's why I know I have a home. When I go back to the meetings, I have so many family. I have so many people I can talk to. You guys have made me so proud. I see some of familiar faces all the time, and I think about, thank God I had a we. Thank God I had a place to go to, because there were times I didn't have anyone. Do you know that you can go to almost any Al-Anon, Alateen, or AA meeting in the world today? That's how big this program is. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than you. So I want to talk about some things, that how we can gauge our problems on a 1 to 10 scale. How important is it? Well, most of the time, I think our problems do get sometimes too big for us to fix. And one of the things about fixing problems is it's never my job to fix it, and I found that out many times, even after falling flat on my face. It gets back to recovery. As long as we have our same recovery goals and we start to look to each other, to be there, to be a we, to make sure you clean house and help others. Thank God for this program. Thank God that I've been able to turn back to the program when I needed it, because there were times it was getting pretty desperate out there, and I'm here to tell you things didn't get better. They actually are harder out there. And I think there's a world of people right now that need to know that those doors are open. You feel abandoned, trapped in addiction, or trapped in some of those problems, there is a way, there is hope. And they said, first things first, keep it simple, stupid. I'll remember those plaques on the wall, having gone to meetings with my dad. Now, some people ask me, well, how did you get in the meetings? I said, I didn't drink to have gone to the meetings. I had to go because my dad made me, but I stuck around, and I found out that a lot of people thought I had a drug problem or alcohol problem. I said, no, I don't. I do have a problem. I have a problem with the world we live in, and I'd rather stick close to the program. So I spent most of my time in recovery meetings, and as soon as I got away from recovery, my problems seemed to begin. I could see how easy it is to pick up a drink. Oftentimes people said, don't pick up the first one. I wasn't there for an alcohol problem, but I knew it was too easy. It would be better I just stuck with the meetings. Some people say, thank God you didn't find out the hard way. And I said, that's correct. I am happy I never found out the hard way. Most of us who have had the opportunity to share in a meeting where I got my roots as Alateen and Al-Anon, having gone to 12-step meetings, whether it be AA, I just love what I see when I see recovery people. So it doesn't necessarily matter what 12-step program you're in. I love to see good recovery. As long as you have good recovery, we all belong in those meetings. I thank God that the doors are still open. They haven't closed the doors. We could go anywhere in this city of Pittsburgh. Some of you have been away from the rooms, and I'm here to say thank God those doors are still open. As the final part of this, I just want to tell you that there are things that I know a lot of us face, but it's a lot easier to face our problems than run from it. And that is what I've learned about the program, is because there is such a thing as being able to face it, and it's not as big as you think. Most of our problems are sometimes much more scary to look at. And if we have a problem, it's time to do something about it. And thank God for the 12 steps that can walk you through that. So if anybody knows that even though the problems are there, you have tools to use to start removing some of the baggage of the past. It's time to put the baggage in the past. So when you focus on recovery, you're focusing on the program, the 12 steps. Every time people stick with the program, they do the 1, 2, and 3 every morning. They make sure that they keep up with the demands of life. Things are going to do it, but as long as you have a we, or you have a sponsor, or somebody you can talk to, most of your problems that you had start to become less and less. And then you start focusing on more recovery goals. Our only goal here is recovery. Some days are going to be harder, but if you're focused on recovery and the people around you are focused on recovery, you are going to have to let go of old people, places, and things, as you know. That was a big one, but it wasn't as hard after I recognized that I was not able to go back. Sometimes you know too much, and sometimes because of recovery, it opens your eyes to things. And then you take off the rose-colored glass and you recognize, like, wow, how could I have been so foolish? So getting grounded in this program has taught me a lot of things. I'm sure it's taught you all a lot of things about goals and recovery. And when we are focused on recovery, whether it be peer support, difficulties, coping and surviving with problems outside the home, you are going to want to run to that meeting. Some of the things I know that happen, and a lot of people often refer to the problems outside of the meetings. And I know that in the world that we live in today, you can't be foolish or naive. I'm going to talk about some other things outside of that, but in my next blog about, self-defense skills, because I think today you can't be too uncertain, or you can't pretend that there aren't problems out there, and especially where things are at. But thank God for these meetings, and I hope by spending a little more time with you on the next blog or any post that we'll be able to make other steps forward. Thank you for listening.